What if I told you that Ferrari could have sacrificed its entire 2025 season just to dominate in 2026? Was it genius or a slow-motion disaster? Stick around, because this is beyond what we've ever seen in modern F1. Vasseur then executed a surgical decision. It froze all aerodynamic development of the SF-25. He redeployed engineers, reallocated budgets, canceled planned improvements, and most importantly, it transferred the emotional burden of an entire year of competition into the future. He bet everything on the SF-26, the car of the new regulations that will come into force in 2026. But that kind of decision does not remain in the offices. It seeped like poison throughout Maranello. Engineers who had been trying to optimize an unstable car for months were reassigned to a platform that wouldn't even run on the track that year. The designers saw their simulations frozen. The mechanics began to repair a car that would no longer evolve. And the pilots, they carried the hardest weight. Imagine being Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion, or Charles Leclerc, the heir to the Scuderia, knowing that every time you got into the SF-25 it was to race with a car at a disadvantage, with no hope of improvement, while you watched McLaren, Mercedes, and even Red Bull bring updates race after race. Every weekend was a test of psychological endurance. Not to win, but to resist, so as not to break down in the middle of a paddock that had already sentenced you. And most disturbing of all, Vasseur knew it. He admitted it publicly. He acknowledged that he underestimated the emotional impact that decision would have within the team. That it was not just a technical or performance issue. It was a human question. Because in today's Formula One, it is not enough to have the budget or the talent. You need cohesion, motivation, and purpose. Without that, even the most ambitious project can collapse from within. That's the play no one saw coming. Because it wasn't a career strategy. It was a declaration of war on the present in the name of the future. And now, all of Formula One watches with fear or skepticism if that future will arrive. It all started with an incident that, in other seasons, would have been just an anecdote. The double disqualification of the Ferraris in the 2025 Chinese Grand Prix. Measurements revealed excessive wear on the wooden board under the flat bottom, a critical component that ensures that the cars do not drive too low to the ground, which would generate undue aerodynamic advantage. But what seemed like a simple technical error was the trigger that exposed an uncomfortable truth. The SF-25 was conceptually broken. It was not a simple question of calibration or minimum tolerances. What was laid bare that day was the result of a deeply committed design philosophy. The SF-25 had been conceived with an extremely frontal aerodynamic load, designed to maximize the aggressive style of Charles Leclerc, who prefers an incisive, almost surgical front axle that allows him to attack when entering corners. This decision, made with the intention of giving an advantage to its star driver, became a tactical trap when a new factor entered the scene: Lewis Hamilton. The Briton, in his first year with Ferrari, faced a car that simply did not speak his language. Hamilton requires a planted rear axle, which provides security when exiting corners and stability during prolonged braking. But with the center of aerodynamic pressure shifted forward, the car became unstable at the rear. In other words, Leclerc had a sharp knife, and Hamilton a poorly balanced knife. Throughout the following races, Ferrari tried to stem the bleeding. It introduced a modified rear suspension with adjustments in the anchor points and damping geometry, seeking to better control the longitudinal movements of the car during braking and acceleration. But the effects were only marginal. Under ideal conditions, the car showed competitiveness over one lap. But in long runs, with degraded tires or in variable wind conditions, the SF-25 revealed its vulnerability. The rear load evaporated, and with it, the real possibilities of competing. It was at that moment that technical management, led by Enrico Cardile and Vasseur, came to a painful conclusion. Fixing the SF-25 was not just a matter of bringing in new parts, but of rewriting its DNA. Something impossible under the rigid cost cap system that prevents excessive investments in the middle of the season. And thus was born the most discussed strategic mistake of the year: giving up. Because by closing the SF-25 folder so early, Ferrari not only abandoned the fight for the 2025 championship, but also disconnected from one of the most valuable processes in modern Formula One: iterative learning on the track. Every stint, every mistake, every poorly managed degradation, every crosswind, every tire temperature out of range, is a lesson that feeds the design of the future. But Ferrari, by closing itself to that feedback loop, became blind to its own weaknesses. And that is what worries rival engineers today. That while Mercedes analyzes each of Antonelli's curves, that while McLaren simulates 50 wing combinations for Norris, that while Red Bull tries to understand why its new aerodynamic package does not generate lateral stability, Ferrari simply stopped collecting data. He abandoned the present and secluded himself in the wind tunnel, in the CFD, in a laboratory that cannot replicate the pressure of a race, the chaos of a dirty track, unexpected overheating, or a tactical decision made in tenths of a second. What seemed like an isolated strategic error has become a case study. Can a Formula One team survive by disconnecting from reality for an entire season? Can a car designed in silence defeat those that evolve daily in the middle of battle? That is the question that resonates today in every box in the paddock. The most disturbing thing about this whole story is not that Ferrari is sunk in the present. What really sends shivers through the technical offices of Milton Keynes, Brackley, and Woking is the possibility that Ferrari has not only given up on the present, but has done so because it has already seen the future, and it belongs to it. Vasseur's statements, beyond their apparent honesty, are being analyzed as part of a more complex strategic game. Because no team voluntarily reveals that they have sacrificed an entire season without having something solid to back it up. What rivals fear is that Ferrari, after stopping development of the SF-25, has invested all that time, money, and personnel in a single mission, to be the first to crack the 2026 code. The new technical regulations that will come into force that year will mark one of the biggest transformations in modern Formula One. Radical changes to active aerodynamics, a complete redesign of the hybrid power flow, more severe structural limitations in the chassis and body design, and a resizing of tires for different aerodynamic efficiency. It's not just about building a new car. It is about reinventing the very concept of a single-seater, and this is where the concern grows, because Ferrari has had more time than anyone else. While the others dealt with the pressure of the championship with half-point updates per race, with the millimeter calibration of urgent aerodynamic packages, the Maranello team has been planning, simulating, exploring gray areas of the regulations with months of advantage. And in an era where the margin between success and failure is milliseconds, that can mark an era. Formula One has seen this type of betting before. Braun GP in 2009 sacrificed the previous year to focus on the double diffuser and won the championship. Mercedes in 2013 had already invested its structure in the development of hybrid engines and dominated since 2014. Even Red Bull, in its prime, prepared the return to the top with a secret technical structure 2 years before the regulatory changes were applied. Now, the question is not whether Ferrari is taking a risk, but whether the risk hides a strategic advantage that is already ripe. The rumors within the paddock do not stop. There are engineers from other teams who claim that Ferrari has presented radical designs in the first wind tunnel sessions for 2026. Concepts that are unlike anything seen before. A more compact body, new passive cooling solutions, a cleaner integration between the power unit and aerodynamics. Even ideas around the thermal reuse of residual energy that could change the overall efficiency of the car. What no one knows for sure is whether those solutions will work. But what they do know is that Ferrari has been in this process for almost a year. And that is an advantage that cannot be easily discounted. It's not just about the amount of time, but about the freedom they have had to fail, to experiment, to remake without pressure. While the others were fighting for tenths in 2025, Ferrari was already looking for seconds in 2026. In Formula One, the real panic is not caused by the rival who wins today. It is caused by the rival who is already winning tomorrow and has not told you. The real fear is not the SF-25, nor its disaster on the runway. The fear is the SF-26, that car that has not yet been born, but that is already beginning to fill the nights of the technical heads of the rest of the grid with sleepless nights. And there is the heart of it all. What does Ferrari know that the rest don't? What did they see in the simulations, in the wind tunnel, in the correlations between track and CFD, that allowed them to make such a radical decision? Because no technical director, no team leader, can sustain this type of strategy if he does not have solid indications that the sacrifice will bear fruit. But time is the great judge. If in March 2026, when the cars hit the track in the first free session of the year, the SF-26 proves to be the fastest car, all this suffering will have been worth it. Frédéric Vasseur will be remembered as the architect of a revolution. Maranello will regain its status as a technical reference, not just as an emotional symbol. And the dark months of 2025 will remain as a bad memory, necessary. However, if the car fails, if you are late, yes, it is fast but fragile. Yes, it is innovative but unstable. If it lacks reliability or does not respond to the changing conditions of the season. So, Ferrari will not only have lost 2 consecutive seasons, it will have wasted a key moment in the evolution of Formula One. It will have allowed other teams to advance unopposed. He will have eroded the confidence of his drivers, technical staff, sponsors and fans who have already endured too many false promises. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.